The casual Friday drifted through space like a commuter bus on a Tuesday morning. Inside the ship, Ambassador Dabin sat in his chair, scrolling through his phone while the viewscreen displayed the massive Galactic Council station ahead. It looked like someone had taken a dozen skyscrapers and twisted them into a knot around a dying star. Very dramatic. Very impressive. Dabin had seen the Grand Canyon once. This was bigger, sure, but less interesting. Captain Minho walked onto the bridge carrying a sandwich. He took a bite and stared at the station. His uniform was slightly wrinkled. Nobody had ironed anything in 3 days. The ship had a perfectly good ironing system, but who had time for that? Is that where we are parking? Minho asked through a mouthful of bread. Apparently, Dabin replied. They sent coordinates. Also a warning that we should approach with appropriate fear and respect. Did you feel appropriately fearful? I felt hungry. Did you bring extra sandwiches? Dr. Yuna entered the bridge with a tablet, not looking up from her screen. She was busy taking notes on the station's architecture. Structurally impossible, which meant they had gravity manipulation. Interesting. She would have to ask about that later. Maybe they would let her examine the systems. Probably not. Everyone seemed very secretive. We are being hailed, announced Lieutenant Hyun from the communication station. She had her feet up on the console, which was technically against regulations. But Dabin had stopped caring about that somewhere around Mars. Put them on, Dabin said, setting down his phone. The view screen flickered. A massive reptilian face appeared, scales shimmering in colors that hurt to look at. 8 feet tall, probably more. Lots of teeth, eyes that looked like they could see through walls. Very intimidating if you had not spent your childhood watching monster movies. I am High Commander Vexwrath, the alien boomed. The translator made his voice sound like thunder mixed with grinding metal. Someone had really worked on that effect. You are the humans. That is us, Dabin confirmed. Ambassador Dabin from Earth. Nice to meet you. Vexwrath's scales shifted to a darker color. Probably meant something. Anger, confusion? Dabin made a mental note to ask Yuna later. You will dock at Bay 7. You will proceed to the council chamber. You will witness the might of the Galactic Empire. You will understand your place in the cosmic order. Sounds good, Minho said, finishing his sandwich. Is there parking validation? The screen went dark. Hyun snorted. Yuna did not look up from her tablet. Engineer Juwan's voice crackled over the intercom from the engine room. Did he hang up on us? Looks like it, Dabin replied. Hyun, did you get a read on his emotional state? Very angry, or very constipated. The translator is not great with nuance. They docked without incident. The bay was enormous, filled with ships that looked like weapons with engines attached. Very aggressive design philosophy. The casual Friday, by comparison, looked like a minivan. Earth had prioritized comfort over intimidation. Long trips were boring. Might as well be comfortable. An escort of 6 armored aliens met them at the airlock. Each stood 7 feet tall, covered in natural armor plating, carrying weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. They formed 2 lines, creating a path. Very ceremonial. The human crew walked between them. Dabin led, hands in his pockets. Minho followed, looking around with mild curiosity. Yuna was still on her tablet. Hyun was checking her phone. Jiwon brought up the rear, yawning. The guards seemed confused. Their weapons hummed louder, maybe trying to be more intimidating. Nobody noticed. The council chamber was designed to terrify. That much was obvious. The ceiling stretched up forever, or seemed to. Gravity platforms floated at impossible angles. The walls displayed holographic images of planets burning, civilizations falling, armies marching. Very dramatic. Very expensive special effects. Hundreds of aliens filled the chamber, representing dozens of species. Some had tentacles. Some had wings. Some were just clouds of glowing gas. All of them were watching the humans with expressions that probably meant things in their respective cultures. High Commander Vexwrath stood at the center on the largest platform. He was even bigger in person. His scales were now bright red, definitely meaning something significant. Around him stood other important-looking aliens. A bear-like creature with 6 limbs, an insect thing with too many eyes, a floating ball of light that hurt to look at directly. Humans of Earth, Vexwrath's voice boomed through the chamber. The acoustics were incredible. You stand before the Galactic Empire. For 3,000 cycles, we have brought order to the chaos of space. We have united 847 worlds under our banner. We are the greatest power this galaxy has ever known. The walls erupted with images. Battle fleets destroying everything in their path. Cities crumbling. Populations screaming. The sound system made sure everyone heard every detail. It went on for several minutes. Dabin watched politely. He had seen worse on the History Channel. We have crushed rebellions, Vexrath continued. We have ended wars. We have brought species to their knees with our power. Entire civilizations have begged for mercy before us. More images. More destruction. More screaming. The chamber's temperature dropped. Deliberate climate control probably meant to create unease. It just made G1 wish he had brought a jacket. Vexrath spread his arms wide. His scales were now cycling through colors rapidly. The speech had been building to something. This was the big moment. You will join us. You will serve. You will know fear. You will know your place. The Empire is eternal. The Empire is absolute. The Empire is everything. Silence fell across the chamber. Every eye, sensor, and consciousness focused on the humans. This was the moment when new species understood their situation. This was when fear took hold. This was when submission began. Dabin yawned. It was not a small yawn. It was not a polite yawn. It was the kind of yawn that came from deep in the chest. The kind that made your jaw crack and your eyes water. The kind of yawn that said you had been sitting too long and needed coffee. The silence somehow got deeper. Sorry, Dabin said, not sounding sorry at all. Long trip. You were saying something about fear? Vexrath's scales flickered. Colors that might have been confusion or might have been rage. Maybe both, did you not see? The High Commander's voice had lost some of its thunder. Did you not witness our power? Oh, we saw, Minho said. He was leaning against a railing that probably was not meant to be leaned on. Nice presentation. Good production values. The sound design was maybe a bit much. Yuna finally looked up from her tablet. She had been taking notes the whole time. The destruction physics were slightly off in the third sequence. Planetary bombardment does not create that kind of atmospheric dispersal pattern. Also, your scales change color with emotional state, correct? Fascinating biological response. Is it voluntary or involuntary? The chamber was so quiet you could hear the hum of the gravity platforms. You dare, Vexrath started, but Hune cut him off. Is there food? Because we have not eaten since breakfast and it has been like 4 hours. Also, does this place have Wi-Fi? I need to check my messages. Several aliens made sounds that the translator could not process. Vexrath's scales were now colors that probably did not have names. You are not afraid, he said slowly, like he was trying to understand a completely foreign concept. Afraid? Dabin thought about it. No, not really. Look, we appreciate the whole intimidation ceremony. Very thorough. But we are from Earth. We have got nuclear weapons. Climate change. Twitter. We invented reality television on purpose. Your destruction montage was basically a documentary about our last century. Somewhere in the chamber, something made a sound like a choke. The insect alien, Krill, was staring at the humans with all of his compound eyes. The bear creature, Throck, had his mouth hanging open. The energy being Shimra was flickering in patterns that might have been shock. So, Minho said into the silence. About that lunch? Vexrath stared at them. The human crew stared back, looking tired and slightly bored. The entire Galactic Empire, for the first time in its 3,000-year history, had absolutely no idea what to do next. Finally, Vexrath made a gesture. The platform began to lower. The ceremony was apparently over. As the humans were escorted out by extremely confused guards, G1 leaned over to Dabin. Do you think we broke their empire? Just the ceremony. The empire will be fine. Should we have been more scared? Dabin shrugged. Probably. But I really am hungry. Behind them, the council chamber remained silent. Somewhere in that silence, the Galactic Empire began to realize that it had just encountered something it had never faced before. Not a warrior race. Not a defiant species. Not even a particularly brave civilization. Just a group of tired, hungry humans who had seen worse things before breakfast and could not be bothered to pretend otherwise. And that, somehow, was far more terrifying than any amount of fear could ever be. The human quarters on the station were nice enough. Clean, functional. The beds were a bit small, but G1 had already figured out how to adjust them. The coffee machine they had brought from the ship was set up in the corner, quietly brewing. It was 6 a.m, ship time, and Dabin was still in his pajamas when the door chimed. He shuffled over and opened it. War Master Throck stood in the hallway, all 6 limbs encased in ceremonial armor that gleamed under the station lights. Behind him were a dozen warriors, also in full battle dress. They looked like they had been up for hours preparing for something important. Dabin held his coffee mug in both hands and blinked at them. "Good morning?" Throck's translator crackled to life. His voice came out as a deep rumble that probably sounded impressive in his native language. "Human. I am War Master Throck, commander of the Imperial Legions, conqueror of the Spiral Arm, bearer of the Crimson Banner. I have fought in 300 battles and never known defeat. Yesterday you insulted the honor of the Empire with your disrespect. I challenge you to combat, single combat, to the death. Your life or mine. This is the ancient way. This is the warrior's path. Do you accept?" Dabin took a sip of coffee. It was still too hot. He looked at Throck, then at the warriors behind him, then back at Throck. "Is this about the yawn? Because I have allergies." The translator made a sound like it was struggling. Throck's fur bristled. "This is about honor. About respect. About proving worth through combat. Will you face me or die a coward?" Dabin glanced at his watch. "I have a call with Earth at 9. Can we do this after lunch? Say 2 o'clock? The warriors behind Throck looked at each other. Throck's fur was now standing completely on end. "The challenge is issued now. Combat must begin now. This is tradition. This is law. This is the way it has always been." Minho appeared behind Dabin, also in pajamas, also holding coffee. "What is going on?" "Death duel. About the yawn. Oh, Minho considered this. Can you reschedule? We have that call. That is what I said." Throck made a sound that the translator gave up on entirely. His scales were changing colors in patterns that suggested extreme frustration. "You mock me. You mock tradition. You mock honor itself. Very well. If you will not fight with dignity, I will drag you to the arena and we will settle this like civilized warriors." Dabin sighed. He looked at his coffee, then at Minho, then back at Throck. "Fine, give me 10 minutes to get dressed. And I need breakfast first." The arena of eternal combat lived up to its name in the worst way possible. It was built from the bones of extinct species, according to the plaques. The floor was made from something that looked like ivory, but probably was not. The walls were decorated with weapons from 1,000 worlds. The ceiling showed a holographic display of past battles, all ending in dramatic deaths. The stands were packed. Word had spread fast. Everyone wanted to see the human who had yawned at the High Commander get destroyed by the War Master. It would be quick. It would be brutal. It would teach these new creatures their place. The human crew sat together in one section. Yuna was taking notes. Hyun was on her phone. Jiwon had brought a bag of chips and was eating them loudly. They looked like they were at a school play they did not particularly want to attend. Throck stood in the center of the arena. He had spent 3 hours preparing. Ritual cleansing, prayers to the war gods, meditation, ceremonial scarification. His armor was polished until it gleamed. His weapons were blessed. He was ready for glorious combat. Dabin walked out from the other entrance wearing his regular clothes. He had done some stretches in the waiting room. That was about it. He looked around the arena with mild interest, then at Throck. "So how does this work? First blood, knockout."
What are the rules?
Throck's translator struggled with the concept of rules in a death match. "We fight until one cannot continue, until honor is satisfied, until death claims the unworthy." Dabin nodded slowly. "Okay, but if someone yields, we stop, right?" "There is no yielding in the arena of eternal combat. That seems unsafe. What if someone gets hurt?" The crowd was very quiet. This was not how these things usually went. Champions did not ask about safety regulations. Throck raised his primary weapon, a massive blade that hummed with energy. "Enough talk. Defend yourself, human." Dabin took off his jacket and tossed it to the side, stretched his neck left and right, rolled his shoulders. He looked like someone getting ready for a workout, not a death match. "All right then." Throck charged. It was an impressive charge. 6 limbs propelling a 600-pound warrior forward at incredible speed, his weapon raised high, his battle cry echoing through the arena. It was the kind of charge that had broken enemy lines on 100 worlds. Dabin stepped to the side. It was a simple move. Basic footwork. The kind of thing taught in any self-defense class on Earth. Throck went past him, momentum carrying him forward. Dabin stuck out his foot. Throck went down hard, armor clanging against the bone floor. The crowd made a sound. Surprise, maybe? Confusion, definitely. Throck got up, shaking his head. His translator was making static noises. He charged again, this time with more care. Weapon sweeping in arcs designed to cut through armor. Footwork precise and practiced. Dabin ducked, weaved, stepped back. He was not trying to win. He was trying to tire Throck out. The alien was strong and fast, but that armor was heavy. Already his movements were getting slightly slower. You know, Dabin said, dodging another swing. Where I am from, we have something called a gym. You might want to try cardio, Throck roared. It was probably meant to be intimidating. It came out sounding frustrated. He swung harder, faster, with less control. Dabin kept backing up, kept moving, kept talking. Also, that armor looks heavy. Maybe something lighter? Mobility is important in combat. Not that I am an expert or anything. Just observation. The crowd was leaning forward now. This was not going the way these things usually went. The human was not fighting back. He was just not getting hit. It was strange. It was unsettling. It was working. Throck was breathing hard. His swings were wild now. Dabin saw an opening and took it. He stepped inside Throck's guard, grabbed one of the alien's limbs and used his momentum against him. It was a judo throw, basic but effective. Throck went down again, this time on his back. Dabin could have finished it then, could have grabbed a weapon, could have done something dramatic. Instead, he stepped back and waited. Throck got up slower this time. His armor was dented. His breathing was labored. He looked at Dabin with what might have been confusion. "Why do you not finish this?" Throck asked. "Why do you not strike?" "Because you will yield first." Dabin was not even breathing hard. "Or we can keep going." "Your choice, I do not yield." "Warriors do not yield, smart warriors do." They circled each other. Throck was trying to think. This human was not fighting like anyone he had faced before. No rage, no pride, no desire for glory. Just efficiency. Cold, calculated efficiency. Throck attacked 3 more times. Each time Dabin avoided or countered. Each time Throck ended up on the ground. Each time Dabin waited for him to get up. The crowd had gone completely silent. On the 6th time, Throck stayed down longer. He was exhausted. His armor felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. His weapons felt useless. This human had not drawn a single weapon, had not thrown a single punch with intent to kill, and yet Throck was losing. Dabin stood over him, not in a dominant way, just waiting. Patient. "This is not how combat works," Throck said quietly. "This is not honorable," Dabin shrugged. "Where I am from, we have a saying. It is better to be a live coward than a dead hero. Not that I think you are a coward. You are just tired. And honestly, so am I. Can we call this a draw? There are no draws in the arena of eternal combat." "Then I yield." Dabin stepped back and raised his hands. "You win. My honor is satisfied. How about yours?" The crowd erupted in sound, confusion, outrage, disbelief. Champions did not yield when winning. Warriors did not give up advantage. This was not in the rules. This was not in the traditions. This was not how things worked. Throck stared at Dabin. The human was offering him victory, but it felt hollow. It felt wrong. It felt like the human was teaching him something, and Throck did not like what he was learning. Slowly, Throck got to his feet. He looked at Dabin, at the human who had beaten him without hatred, without cruelty, without even really trying. "I do not understand you," Throck said. "That is okay." Dabin picked up his jacket. "Most people do not." He walked over and offered his hand to Throck. "Good match. You are very strong. Really. I am going to be sore tomorrow." Throck looked at the offered hand. In his culture, you did not touch an opponent after combat. You killed them or they killed you. That was the way. But this human was standing there, hand extended, looking tired and friendly and completely unconcerned with tradition. Throck took the hand. The grip was firm, human. Strong in a different way than warrior strong. The arena stayed silent. High Commander Vexrath was in the stands, scales cycling through colors so fast they blurred. Oracle Shimra was glowing brighter than usual. Ambassador Krill was clicking his mandibles in what might have been thought. "Would you like to get a drink?" Dabin asked. "I saw a place on level 3 that looked okay. High treat. We can talk about training techniques. You have got some good moves. Just need to work on the endurance." Throck heard himself say yes. The translator sounded as confused as he felt. They walked out of the arena together. Behind them, the crowd finally found its voice. Some were angry. Some were confused. All of them were talking about what they had. The Galactic Archives occupied an entire level of the station. Floor-to-ceiling displays of information, holographic records floating in precise formations, data crystals arranged in patterns that probably meant something to archivists. It was beautiful in a sterile, organized way, like a library designed by someone who had never actually enjoyed reading. Dr. Yuna stood in the center of it all, holding her tablet and looking around with genuine interest. She had been summoned here by Oracle Shimra, the ancient energy being who served as the Empire's keeper of knowledge. Yuna had no idea why, but she had brought her research files anyway. And coffee. Always coffee. The Oracle appeared as a sphere of light hovering at eye level. Her voice came from everywhere and nowhere, translated into something Yuna's ears could process. It sounded like wind chimes and distant thunder. Dr. Yuna, thank you for coming. I have watched 847 species join the Empire. I have cataloged their histories, their cultures, their fears. But I do not understand humans. Your ambassador yawns at displays of power. Your captain treats death duels like social events. Your species shows no appropriate fear response. I need to understand why. Yuna pulled up a chair that had not been there a moment ago. The Oracle had manifested it. Thoughtful. She set down her coffee and opened her tablet. How much time do you have? I am functionally immortal. Perfect. This might take a while. Yuna pulled up Earth's historical database. She had compressed it onto a single drive. Thousands of years of human civilization, wars, discoveries, disasters, and questionable decisions, all in one place. Let us start at the beginning. Humans evolved on Earth about 200,000 years ago. Earth is what we call a death world. High gravity compared to most habitable planets. Extreme weather patterns. Tectonic instability. Dangerous megafauna. And then there were the ice ages. Ice ages? The entire planet froze over. Multiple times. Temperatures dropped so low that most life died. Our ancestors survived with stone tools, fire, and determination. No technology. No shelter beyond caves. Just humans trying not to freeze to death while hunting animals that wanted to eat them. The Oracle's light flickered. Surely your species' numbers dropped to near extinction. They did. We came very close to dying out several times. But we did not. We adapted. We learned. We survived. Yuna took a sip of coffee. That kind of set the pattern, really. She pulled up more data. Fast forward to recorded history. Agriculture, civilization, cities. Humans finally had stable food sources and permanent settlements. Things were looking up, and then we invented war. Not just fighting. Organized large-scale warfare, armies, strategies, weapons, specifically designed to kill other humans as efficiently as possible. The holographic displays around them lit up with historical records, battles, empires rising and falling, cities burning. The casualty counts scrolled past in numbers that made the Oracle's light dim. These numbers, are they accurate? Conservative estimates, actually. We did not keep great records in the early days, but yes, humans have killed millions of other humans throughout history. Hundreds of millions if you count all the wars combined. But these were your own species. Your own kind, Yuna nodded. That is what makes it particularly tragic. We are very good at finding reasons to fight each other. Religion, resources, territory, pride. Sometimes just because someone looked at us wrong. The Oracle was silent for a moment. Her light had taken on colors that Yuna had not seen before. And yet your species continued. You did not destroy yourselves, we tried. Multiple times. Which brings me to the 20th century. Yuna pulled up a new set of files. This is where things get really interesting. World War I, World War II. The numbers were staggering, over 100 million human casualties in under 50 years. New weapons. Poison gas, firebombing, atomic bombs, nuclear fission weapons. We split atoms and released enough energy to destroy entire cities in seconds. Yuna showed footage of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. 2 bombs, 2 cities. Hundreds of thousands dead instantly. Radiation poisoning for decades afterward. The Oracle's light was barely visible now. You created weapons that could destroy your own world. Not just could. We made thousands of them. Enough to destroy all life on Earth several times over. We called it mutually assured destruction. If one side attacked, everyone died. So we just pointed the weapons at each other and waited. How long? Decades. Entire generations grew up knowing that nuclear war could start at any moment. We had drills in schools teaching children what to do if they saw a flash of nuclear fire. as if hiding under a desk would help. We lived with that fear every day, and you survived this as well? Barely, there were close calls. Very close calls. Tuesday in October 1962 was particularly scary. But yes, we survived. Made treaties. Reduced the number of weapons. Still have enough to end civilization, but not as many as before. Progress, I suppose. Una pulled up more recent data. Then there were the pandemics. Diseases that killed millions. The Black Death, Spanish flu, COVID-19. Each time we thought it might be the end. Each time we found ways to adapt climate change. We burned fossil fuels for energy and accidentally started heating our planet. Extreme weather. Rising seas. Mass extinctions. We knew we were doing it. We had the data. We mostly kept doing it anyway until it got really bad. You knowingly damaged your own world? For profit mostly. And convenience. Humans are not always smart about long-term consequences, but we are getting better. Slowly. Very slowly. The Oracle's light was now cycling through patterns that might have been distress. This is horrifying. Your species has faced extinction repeatedly through your own actions. Una smiled. It was not a happy smile. That is just the big stuff. We also have smaller daily horrors: poverty, hunger, disease, crime, natural disasters, earthquakes that kill thousands, hurricanes that destroy cities, volcanoes that bury entire populations. Your world attacks you. Constantly. Earth is geologically active, tectonically unstable, meteorologically violent. We build our homes and hope they do not get destroyed. Sometimes they do. We rebuild. Why do you stay? Where else would we go? Earth is our home. We love it despite everything it does to us. Maybe because of everything it does to us. It made us tough. Una pulled up a final file. And then there is the internet. What is the internet? A global communication network. We connected computers all over the world so we could share information instantly. That sounds beneficial. You would think so. In practice, we use it to argue with strangers and share pictures of cats. Also to spread misinformation, conspiracy theories, and hate speech. We invented a tool that could educate everyone and used it to make ourselves angrier at each other. The Oracle made a sound like static. I do not understand, neither do we really, but we keep using it. Una showed examples: social media, online comments, viral videos. The sheer volume of human stupidity and creativity mixed together in equal parts. And through all of this, Una continued, we kept going.
Kept building.
Kept trying. We went to space even though it tried to kill us. We built stations in orbit. Colonies on the Moon and Mars. We kept pushing outward because that is what we do. We survive, we adapt. We refuse to give up. The Oracle was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was different. Smaller somehow. I have observed 847 species. None have your history. None have survived what you have survived. Most would have gone extinct after a single planetary ice age. You survived multiple. Most would have destroyed themselves with nuclear weapons. You created an uneasy peace. Most would have been broken by lesser tragedies. We are stubborn, Una said. Also, we have dark humor. That helps dark humor. We make jokes about terrible things. It is how we cope. When faced with horror, we laugh. It is either laugh or cry, and laughing feels better. The Oracle's light brightened slightly. This explains much. Your ambassador did not yawn from disrespect. He yawned because he was genuinely unimpressed. Compared to Earth history, your intimidation ceremony was like a movie trailer. Dramatic but not real. We have lived through worse. Survived worse. Caused worse. Your empire shows us images of destruction and expects us to be afraid. But we have destroyed ourselves more effectively than you ever could, and we are still here. The Oracle floated closer. What do humans fear then? If not death, not destruction, not the might of empires. Una thought about it: failure. Letting down people we care about, meaninglessness, bad coffee. Student loans. The future, the past. Each other sometimes. Ourselves often. We fear plenty of things. Just not your theatrics, I see. The Oracle's color shifted to something that looked like understanding. The Empire has ruled through fear for 3,000 cycles, but fear only works if the threatened party has not already experienced worse. Humans have experienced worse. Much worse, repeatedly, pretty much. Una finished her coffee. Is that what you needed to know? Yes and no. I understand now why humans are different. But I do not know what this means for the Empire. We have never encountered a species we cannot intimidate. Our entire structure is built on fear. What happens when fear no longer works? You adapt. Like we did. Yuna stood and stretched. Humans are not special. We just had a really bad home planet and terrible luck. Any species could become like us given enough disasters. You just happen. The trial grounds were located in the oldest part of the station. Ancient metal walls covered in symbols from dead languages. The lighting was deliberately kept dim. The temperature was deliberately kept uncomfortable. Everything about the place was designed to create unease before the actual tests even began. High Commander Vexrath stood in the observation room, watching the human crew file into the waiting area below. His scales were a determined orange. Today would be different. Today these humans would understand fear. He had designed the tests himself, pulling from the worst nightmares of 800 species. Ambassador Krill stood beside him, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. Are you certain this is wise? The humans have proven resistant to traditional methods. They have not experienced the fear chamber. No species has emerged unchanged. Vexrath's confidence was absolute. By the end of today, they will respect the Empire, or they will break. In the waiting area, the human crew looked around with mild interest. The walls were decorated with warning symbols and images of previous test subjects in various states of psychological collapse. Very dramatic. Minho was eating an apple. Anyone want to guess what horrible tests they have planned? Torture, probably, Hyun said without looking up from her phone. Maybe some psychological warfare. Jump scares, Yuna was taking notes. I hope they document the methodology. This could be valuable research, Jiwon yawned. Can we get this over with? I have maintenance scheduled for this afternoon. Dabin just sipped his coffee. It was terrible coffee, but he had learned to manage his expectations. A door opened. A mechanical voice announced the first test. Captain Minho, please proceed to Chamber 1. The fear chamber awaits. Minho stood, stretched, and walked through the door. It closed behind him with a sound like a tomb ceiling. The fear chamber was a masterpiece of psychological manipulation. It used advanced neural scanning to find the subject's deepest fears and manifest them as realistic holograms. Sound, smell, tactile feedback. Everything felt real. 47 species had gone mad within minutes. The record for longest survival was 18 minutes before complete mental breakdown. Minho walked into a room that shifted around him. The walls became his childhood home. Familiar but wrong, shadows moved in corners. Voices whispered things he could almost understand. The temperature dropped. His breath became visible. Then the manifestations began, his fears taking shape: failure, isolation, loss. The chamber showed him everything he tried not to think about. It was well done. Good production values. The special effects team had really put effort into this. Minho walked through it all with the expression of someone at a moderately interesting museum exhibit. He had been through worse. That year after the divorce. The 3 months when his father was sick. The night the ship nearly crashed during testing. Real fear was different from manufactured fear. Real fear did not have such obvious sound cues. After 30 minutes, he found what looked like an exit and knocked on it. Are we done? This is interesting, but I have work to do. In the observation room, Vexrath's scales turned a confused purple. He emerged already. Check his vitals. Check his neural patterns. He must be in shock. The medical readouts showed slightly elevated heart rate. Nothing else. Minho was fine. Bored even. Minho exited the chamber and rejoined the crew. How was it? Dabin asked, like a haunted house. Pretty good scares. The lighting was atmospheric. 6 out of 10. Would have been higher, but they relied too much on jump scares. Not enough sustained dread. Yuna made a note. Interesting. Standard. Fear response techniques translated into experiential format. The next test was the endurance trial. 72 hours of sensory deprivation, physical stress, and psychological pressure. Limited food and water. Extreme temperatures cycling between freezing and scorching. White noise designed to prevent sleep. It had broken entire military units, Jiwon volunteered. Sounds like camping. I can handle camping. The trial began. The chamber was small, barely room to lie down. The temperature started cold, so cold that breath turned to ice. The walls were completely white, reflecting back any light until it hurt to look. The sound system played static, just loud enough to be impossible to ignore. Jiwon had grown up on a space station with failing life support. He had spent weeks in environmental suits during repairs. This was uncomfortable, sure, but manageable. He had experienced worse during the Mars colony construction. At least this chamber was not actually leaking air. He mostly napped. The trick was to conserve energy and not think too hard about discomfort. He had learned that during his first deep space posting. Time passed. The chamber did its best to break him. He remained stubbornly whole. After 72 hours, the door opened. Jiwon walked out, stretched, and asked if breakfast was still being served. Vexrath's scales were now flickering between colors so fast they blurred. This is impossible. The endurance trial has never been completed without lasting trauma. Krill clicked thoughtfully. Perhaps humans have different baseline tolerances. The third test was designed specifically for social species. The isolation chamber. Complete sensory isolation for weeks. No sound, no light, no contact. Species that depended on social bonds typically broke within days. Yuna volunteered immediately. I have so much research to catch up on. Can I bring my files? That defeats the purpose, Vexrath said through the communication system. Then can I bring just the data tablets? I promise I will work quietly. She entered the chamber with nothing but time. The door sealed. Darkness, silence, complete isolation from everything. For social creatures, this was torture. For Yuna, it was heaven. She spent the time organizing her thoughts, planning research papers, running through complex calculations in her head, reviewing everything she had learned about alien biology. It was peaceful. No interruptions. No meetings. No small talk. Just her and her thoughts. After 2 weeks, they checked on her through the monitoring system. She had arranged the chamber into an organized workspace using nothing but her imagination. She was humming while mentally writing a paper on comparative xenobiology. When they opened the door, she looked annoyed. Already? I was just getting started. Can I stay longer? They had to convince her to leave. She exited only after making them promise she could come back later. The fourth test was pure theater. The execution spectacle. Holographic displays of elaborate deaths, screaming victims, detailed explanations of torture methods used throughout the galaxy. It lasted 3 hours and featured the most disturbing content the Empire had compiled in 3,000 years. The entire human crew attended. They sat in the viewing chamber like they were at a movie, which technically they were. 15 minutes in, Hyun raised her hand. Excuse me, but that anatomy is wrong. You cannot remove that organ without the subject dying immediately. The dramatic screaming is unrealistic. 30 minutes in, Minho started critiquing the cinematography. The lighting is good, but the camera angles are amateurish. Also too much slow motion, we get it. It is supposed to be dramatic. An hour in, they were having a full discussion about the special effects. Jiwon was pretty sure some of the technology shown was physically impossible. Yuna was taking notes on the creative but scientifically inaccurate torture devices. Dabin had fallen asleep. When it finally ended, Hyun raised her hand again. Can we watch it again? I want to take better notes on the technical errors. In the observation room, Vexrath was having what could only be described as a breakdown. His scales were cycling through colors that did not exist in nature. His translator was making sounds that were probably screaming. What is wrong with them? Why are they not afraid? What do they fear? Krill had been watching carefully. I do not think they fear death. Not in the way we understand fear. Everyone fears death, not humans, apparently. Vexrath activated the communication system. His voice boomed into the viewing chamber where the humans were still discussing the execution spectacle. Humans, you have completed the trials. You have shown no fear, no proper fear. I demand to know, what would make you afraid? The humans looked at each other. Dabin woke up. What? What do you fear? Vexrath's voice had lost all its thunder. It sounded almost desperate. There must be something. Everyone fears something. Long silence. The humans were thinking about it. Finally, Hyun spoke up. Student loans. The entire crew shuddered. That one hit close to home. Student debt was a real fear. A lasting fear. A fear that followed you for decades. Medical bills, Jiwon added. Those are terrifying. Identity theft, Minho said. Someone stealing your financial information. That is scary. Dementia, Yuna added quietly. Losing your mind slowly. Forgetting who you are. That is genuinely frightening. Dabin thought about it. Climate collapse. Nuclear war, pandemic, asteroid impact. Artificial intelligence gone wrong. Supervolcanoes, solar flares, the heat death of the universe. He shrugged. We fear lots of things, just not your theatrics. In the observation room, Vexrath sat down. His scales had gone completely gray. The translator picked up what he said next. They fear boring everyday things and cosmic-scale disasters, but not us. They do not fear the Empire. Krill's mandibles clicked in what might have been sympathy. Perhaps the Empire has been approaching this incorrectly. How does one intimidate the unintimidatable? Perhaps, Krill suggested carefully, one does not. Perhaps one tries a different approach entirely. The humans were released from the trial grounds with perfect psychological evaluations, not a single sign of trauma. Not of Ambassador Krill's private quarters were different from the rest of the station. Warmer, more comfortable. The lighting was softer. There were plants, real plants, growing in containers along the walls. It felt less like a military installation and more like a home. The human crew sat around a table that had been adjusted to accommodate both human and alien physiology. Krill had invited them for what he called a cultural exchange dinner. The food was interesting. Some of it was even recognizable. Most importantly, G1 had been allowed to bring the coffee maker. Also present were War Master Throck, looking uncomfortable in casual dress, and Oracle Shimra, manifesting as a gentle sphere of light that floated near the ceiling. High Commander Vexrath sat at the far end of the table, scales a neutral gray, looking tired in a way that transcended species. The first hour was polite small talk. Weather on various planets, food preferences, the logistics of faster-than-light travel. All very diplomatic. Nobody mentioned the tests. Nobody mentioned the yawn. It was pleasant in an awkward way. Then G1 poured everyone coffee, the smell filling the room, and something shifted. The pretense dropped. Vexrath's scales flickered to something darker. I must know, Vexrath said quietly. Why do you not fear us? I have conquered 800 worlds. I have brought entire species to submission with a single display of power. But you humans, you yawn, you critique, you treat death duels like inconveniences. Why? The humans looked at each other. Dabin sipped his coffee and set it down carefully. That is a big question. You want the short answer or the real one? The real one, Dabin leaned back. We are not fearless. That is not it at all. We are just tired, very tired. Earth is a difficult planet. It has tried to kill us since we crawled out of the ocean. Ice ages, predators, diseases, volcanoes, earthquakes, floods, everything. And we survived because we had no choice but to survive. Minho nodded. Then we started killing each other. Wars, so many wars. Over everything. Territory, religion, resources, pride. We got very good at it. Too good. We invented weapons that could destroy our entire planet and pointed them at ourselves for decades. Throck's fur bristled. You threatened your own world? For about 40 years, Yuna said. Called it the Cold War. Nuclear weapons aimed at every major city. One mistake away from ending civilization. Children grew up doing drills to hide under desks in case of nuclear attack, as if that would help. But you survived, Shimra's voice chimed. How luck? Mostly. Dabin shrugged. And the fact that nobody actually wanted to die. So we made agreements, treaties. We stepped back from the edge. Barely. But we did it. We still have the weapons, though. Just in case of what? Krill asked. In case someone else tries to use theirs first. Trust issues. We have a lot of those. Vexrath was very still. You live with that fear constantly, used to. Hyun was scrolling through her phone but paying attention. Now it is just background noise. Like traffic. You know it is dangerous, but you stop thinking about it after a while. Then there were the pandemics, Jiwan added. Diseases that killed millions. The Black Death killed a third of Europe. Spanish flu killed 50 million. COVID-19 shut down the entire planet for years. We survived those too. Made vaccines. Built hospitals. Learned to wash our hands more. Your own biology attacked you? Throat sounded disturbed. Not our biology. Other biology. Viruses, bacteria, parasites. Earth is full of things trying to kill us. We are part of a complex ecosystem where everything eats everything else. Humans are just better at not being eaten, usually. Yuna pulled up data on her tablet. Then there is climate change. We burned fossil fuels for energy and accidentally started heating the planet. Rising sea levels. Extreme weather. Ecosystem collapse. We knew it was happening and mostly kept doing it anyway because changing was inconvenient. You knowingly damaged your world? Vexrath's scales flickered with something that might have been horror. For profit. For comfort. For convenience. Humans are very good at ignoring long-term consequences, but we are working on it, slowly, very slowly. Solar power, wind power, electric vehicles. We are trying to fix what we broke. Dabin refilled his coffee. The point is, we have spent our entire existence surviving impossible things. Ice ages with stone tools, plagues with medieval medicine, world wars with primitive weapons, nuclear standoffs with terrible diplomacy. Every generation of humans has faced something that should have ended us. And every generation has survived. So when you show us images of destruction, Minho continued, we compare it to what we already know. A galactic empire destroying planets. We have watched our own planet catch fire. Death tolls in the millions. We have killed more of ourselves than you have killed of anyone. Elaborate torture? We invented the Iron Maiden and the breaking wheel for fun. Your intimidation ceremony was impressive, Hyun said. Really, good production values. But compared to human history, it was just another Tuesday. We have lived through worse. We have survived worse. We have caused worse. The room was very quiet. Vexrath's scales had gone completely gray again. Then what do you fear? If not death, not pain, not destruction? Dabin thought about it. Failure, losing people we care about, letting down those who depend on us, meaninglessness, watching our loved ones suffer and being unable to help. Those are real fears. Those keep us up at night. Also bad coffee, Ji-won added. That is genuinely upsetting. Despite everything, Krill made a sound that the translator identified as laughter. You fear mundane things and existential things. But not empires. Empires are temporary. Dabin's voice was gentle but firm. We have had thousands of them on Earth. All of them thought they were eternal. All of them fell. Rome, Mongolia, Britain, the Soviet Union. They all believed they would last forever. None did. Empires built on fear always collapse because fear only works until people realize they have nothing left to lose. Vexrath looked like he had been struck. 3,000 years. The Galactic Empire has ruled for 3,000 years. That is a good run. Impressive. But humans have been around for 200,000 years. Empires come and go. The species continues. That is what matters. Shimra's light pulsed thoughtfully. I have been listening to your history, reading your records. Humans are not unique because you are stronger or smarter or more advanced. You are unique because you have already survived your apocalypse. Multiple times. Other species join the Empire still innocent, still believing the universe is fair, still thinking safety is possible. But humans know better. Yuna nodded. We know the universe is dangerous. We know life is fragile. We know everything ends eventually. So we do not waste time being afraid of threats. We just deal with them and move on. Fear is useful when it makes you careful. But constant fear is exhausting. We learned that a long time ago. Throck had been silent for a while. Finally he spoke. I challenged you to combat because I thought you were disrespectful. But you were not. You simply had no reason to pretend to be impressed. You have faced real wars, real suffering, real survival. Our ceremony was theater. You treated it as theater. It was very good theater, Dabin said kindly. But yes, Vexrath stood slowly. His movements were careful, like someone who had just realized the ground beneath them was not as solid as they believed. The Empire is built on fear. That is our foundation. Our entire structure depends on species being afraid of us. But if fear does not work, if a species simply refuses to be intimidated, then what do we have? A choice, Dabin said. You can keep trying to scare people who are not scared, or you can try something different. What would you suggest? Cooperation, partnership, mutual benefit. Humans tried the whole fear-based empire thing, multiple times. Never worked long-term. People rebel. Systems collapse. Everyone suffers. But cooperation? That can last. That can build something real. Krill's mandibles clicked rapidly. You are suggesting the Empire change its fundamental nature. I am suggesting it adapt, like humans did, many times painfully but successfully. Minho poured himself more coffee. Change or die, that is the only real choice any civilization has. The universe does not care about tradition. Vexrath walked to the window. Outside, the station orbited its star, artificial lights glittering against the darkness of space. 3,000 years of tradition, 3,000 years of power, and 5 humans had shown him how fragile it all was. If I try to change the empire, there will be resistance. War. Suffering. Probably, Dabin agreed. Change is always painful, but the alternative is watching it collapse on its own. At least if you guide the change, you can minimize the damage. Why do you care? Vexrath turned back to face them. Why do you humans who are immune to our intimidation care what happens to the Empire? Dabin smiled. Because we are tired, very tired. Earth is finally peaceful. Mostly we do not want to go back to fighting. We do not want another war. If the Empire changes, maybe we can all just relax for a while. Have some coffee. Build some trade routes. Do boring diplomatic stuff. That sounds nice. You want peace? We want peace. We have earned peace. 200,000 years of survival. We would like to try just existing for a while without constant crises. Shimra's light brightened. This is why I find humans fascinating. Any other species would seek to conquer, after proving themselves immune to intimidation. But humans just want to be left alone to drink.